This story is called Granny Glitten's and Her Amazing Mittens. It's a story you will not believe, also by Gertrude Crompton. Once there was an old woman who made mittens from good wool yarn. She made fine, warm mittens. Right into the mittens she could knit a boy on a sled, a girl on skates, 2 yellow ducks, or anything else you could name. All the mothers and fathers for miles around ordered mittens for their children from Granny Glitten's. The needles would flash and knit yarn pictures in the old lady's kitchen from morning till night. So here's a picture of Granny, and she's there knitting the mittens. Granny Glitten's made mittens because she liked to make mittens, and she made mittens to sell. Those mittens paid for the coal to keep Granny's little house warm. They paid for the egg for Granny's breakfast. They paid for the milk for Granny's black cat. Now, of course, Granny Glitten's was very busy just before Christmas. Every child wanted a new pair of Granny's mittens for Christmas. Then the needles flashed in the morning, and in the evening, and in the middle of the day. But just before Christmas, everything went wrong. Oh, Granny Glitten's had orders and orders for mittens. She had so many orders that she kept saying to herself, "Perhaps I can buy a fine new stove for my kitchen." Yes, the orders came in. It was the yarn that went wrong. Granny Glitten's had to send to the city for yarn. She ordered red yarn and brown yarn and green yarn and yellow yarn and black yarn. But the store sent white yarn. Balls and balls of white yarn. Nothing but white yarn. With the yarn came a letter. Dear Granny Glitten's, we do not have red yarn or brown yarn or green yarn or yellow yarn or black yarn. All we have is white yarn. We have asked the other stores. They do not have red yarn or brown yarn or green yarn or yellow yarn or black yarn. All they have is white yarn. So we are sending you white yarn. We are sorry. The store. "Oh, oh, oh," said Granny Glitten's. "Nobody wants white mittens. What shall I do?" The black cat came into the kitchen. Granny said to him, "I must think. Oh, I must think." So here is Granny being rather perturbed about not having any other colors of yarn. "Poor cat," she said, "it is dark, and you are hungry, and so am I. I will think some more later." She poured some milk for the cat. Then she opened her cupboard to see what she could find for herself. Red peppermints, green wintergreen, brown chocolate, brown licorice, and yellow lemon drops. They were the colors she needed for her mittens. So here she is, looking in the cupboards to see what she has, and you can see all the white yarn stacked in the boxes. "Do you think?" she asked the cat. "Well, the only way to find out is to find out." She got out 5 pans from the cupboard and she put them all on the stove. Then she put the peppermints in one, the wintergreen in another, the chocolate in the third, the licorice in the next, and the lemon drops in the last. Granny Glitten stirred the 5 pans very carefully with 5 spoons. Then she put a ball of white yarn into the peppermints. The yarn turned a beautiful red. She put a ball of yarn in each pan and stirred more carefully than ever. When each ball was the right color, she took it out and put in another. So here is Granny doing the different colors of yarn on the stove. It was late that night, and everyone else had been sleeping for hours and hours before Granny Glitten's had all the red and green and brown and yellow and black yarn she needed. "Oh my goodness," she said to the cat, "I'm tired, and I'm so hungry I could eat this yarn. I forgot all about my supper." Just for fun and to show the cat how hungry she was, Granny Glitten's bit off a small piece of red yarn. It tasted good. Granny tasted the other colors too. Granny Glitten smiled and smiled, and the next morning the knitting needles flashed and turned. So here is Granny eating a piece of the yarn. The new mittens were wonderful. Not only did they have yellow ducks and fir trees and dancing bears and snowmen with black hats, the children could eat the yellow ducks and fir trees and dancing bears and snowmen with black hats. Granny Glitten sold so many mittens that she bought a lovely shiny new stove for her kitchen. And of course, she was knitting mittens all year round, because as soon as ever a father or mother bought a child a pair of mittens, the child said they were the best present he ever had, and then ate them. Can you believe it? There's the children with a knife and fork eating their mittens.